Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Really excited to be here today. Thank you for having us, Brand Innovators. My name is Jeremy Greenspan, Senior Director of Business Development at The Trade Desk. I am thrilled to be on stage today with a very important partner that I've gotten to know over the last year, somebody that I've learned a tremendous amount from, and somebody that I believe is one of the most innovative and strategic leaders within our media space.
Thanks.
So Brad, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Kimberly-Clark?
Yeah, absolutely. Brad Moranchek, so Senior Director, Global Media at Kimberly-Clark, basically head of Global Media. As Rachel said, we're part of the Digital Center of Excellence at Kimberly-Clark, the Global Digital Center of Excellence, which is part of our global growth organization. So we are truly in the global center, right? We're not tied to any P&Ls, and as Rachel perfectly said it, as she's been trained, we have to influence without authority. That's our main role, right? I sort of break what our team does, our media team specifically, down into three main areas. Number one is recognizing that our teams around the world, they're very heads down, right? They're driving the business, they're making it happen, they're fighting fires. So it's our job is to be heads up for them and talk about what's coming, how do we need to change, how do we need to evolve, what are better ways of working that they can use to help drive growth faster, all those kinds of things. So part number one of our role is really that inspiration, the vision, the direction, help our organization understand that from a media perspective, be the heads up of where are we going and where do we want to get to. The second part then is helping our regional teams to realize that vision, to make that progress, right? And everybody around the world is in a different spot, different things, different capabilities. So we kind of align with our peers around the world from a media perspective. We all agree on these are the important things to go after. And then it's a conversation. Where are you, right? If we kind of look at our certain capabilities of a crawl, walk, run, fly, where are you and where do you think you can get to and how can we help you get there faster, right? So it's very much, I'd say a support and partnership role. I think a lot of global organizations, and I've been part of them, they can kind of be seen as a layer of complexity. They can be seen as police, rule makers, those kinds of things. We don't take that approach at Kimberly-Clark. We are very much about partnership and support and building our teams up. They've got enough stuff to worry about without us and the global team making their lives harder. We want to make their lives easier. So that's the second part. The third part and final part of what our team does is really stand up what I guess I would call the global media spine. So there's a lot of key partnerships that we have, Trade Desk being one of them. Google, Meta, LiveRamp, Amazon, a lot of big partners like that. Our agency partners, consultants that we work with as well. So we definitely don't believe in one size fits all, but if we can get to a few sizes fits most, that works pretty well. So there's a lot of added value that can be garnered out of partnerships when you've got a global team helping to drive, a joint business partnership. A lot of economies of scale if you can actually kind of get the same technology working in various markets. Again, it doesn't have to be in all, but if we can get a lot, that can be better and helps us unlock a lot of insights. So that's the third part of the role, and that's what my team does at KC.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I'll start with an easy one, as we were talking about in the green room. Sounds like some exciting news next week. Kimberly-Clark moving into their official offices in Chicago.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody knew this or not. It's a pretty big change, and it was one of the. Honestly, it was I would call it a bombshell when it kind of came out during the middle of the pandemic. It was April of last year, so we were 1 year in. And our leadership made the bold decision to consolidate all of North American marketing, not Canada, like US marketing, global, some other capabilities into one office in Chicago. It hadn't been that way. Most of our marketing team is Neenah, Wisconsin based. And so they had to literally build a new office for us in Fulton Market, where all the cool kids are. And so we're good. We're like on the Western fringe though. We're literally like, we're helping it expand, helping it go a little further. We're like not right in the center by all the restaurants and stuff. We got to walk to those, but it's going to be great. It's a beautiful space, and it's going to be a brand new culture. So for everyone's kind of getting used to, or most people are getting used to going back to the office to some degree. And like, oh, it's going to getting refamiliarized with it. For us, it's going to be like not only that, but like an entirely new thing, like all new people, a whole new culture, a whole new way of doing things. Yeah, and the office, it opens next Monday, the 6th. So very excited for that. I have not gotten in to get a preview of it yet. They are doing a bit of a soft open that's been happening. So, but everything I've heard about it is great. And I'm just so excited for our North America team in particular. Look, I mean, Neenah's a wonderful community. I mean, nothing against it, but I like it to know that our marketers are going to be here as part of a much larger advertising community, marketing community here in Chicago. I think it's going to, help them learn and grow faster, help us do things better, quicker, more effectively. So I think it was a real smart move of our leadership to make the change again. And there was a cost. I mean, we lost some people because, they're happy that Neenah's a lifestyle choice. You're there for, if you're up there, you're there because you want to be there. So some people didn't come with us, but we got a lot of new people coming in, and we did retain a good amount of talent too. So it'll be an exciting time.
Very exciting. Can't wait to see it. Let's go back to global for a second. Kimberly-Clark, a global brand. You operate in over 150 countries. Obviously, that's part of your focus. And there's a lot of regional nuances when it comes to global, right? You have different product lines. More importantly, you think about different regulations when it comes to data collection and identity. We'd love to talk a little bit and understand some of the nuances and challenges you have thinking about a global capacity. How do you scale but those best practices, and where are the big opportunities, from your perspective?
Yeah, cool. So Kimberly-Clark has, I think, some good things going for it in light of those challenges. I mean, number one, we're nearly a $20 billion company, but we're very focused on what we do. So, there really are only 10 to 15 core products that we make. Huggies is Huggies around the world. Kleenex is Kleenex around the world. Cottonelle maybe has a couple different names in a few different places, but, we don't have we're not also making, car wax or other things, right? So we're focused, and that kind of makes it easier, I think, in terms of, managing against, regulations for the products and some of the complexity that might come with it. And then to the other part of your question, from, data privacy, local regulations, things around that nature. This is another area where our model suits us well. So fortunately, in the global center, I don't have to know Brazilian law or Australian law or Chinese law or whatever it might be in terms of what those things are. But we actually have really nice sort of, plugs and sockets, we call them, on a regional level. So, I don't have to try to learn and try to help 150 different countries. I can kind of connect to our EMEA region, our North America region, Latin America, Asia, Canada, right? So I don't have to make 150 phone calls to talk about scaling best practices of, privacy and identity solutions. We can do it in 5. And that's how we've done it. I think we try to keep it simple around these topics, right? Or even if it's preparing for the cookieless future. You start with a region and EMEA and say, all right, well, where are you now? Let's just get kind of simple on tracking. Let's not make it complicated, but what are you doing that's cookie dependent? What are you doing that where you're using cookies, but you've already found a good solution? And what's something that you just don't have a good solution for yet? How do those percentages break out? Okay, got it. Well, now let's kind of talk about, how we sort of work on that one piece. It's a harder one to do. And we can kind of say, well, here's what, another region with a similar challenge has been doing to address that one. Maybe there's something that you can learn from there, right? And also, we've done a lot to, communicate on a broader level and really try to help disarm our teams around the world. So not just the media people, but all of the marketing people, helping them understand, why is this an important topic? Why do you need to know about it? What can you do to help? Number one, don't cut your cookieless testing budget, please. Cut something else, because it's going to matter and it's going to be helpful. So, those are the kind of things that we do, I think, to kind of overcome the complexity that those regional, those sort of local laws and differences between markets can do, is just sort of break it up into bite-sized pieces and kind of take one sort of simple chunk at a time. And help people sort of understand where we are, how we're progressing.
Yeah. Speaking of cookieless and identity, kind of when you think about it from a global perspective, what excites you the most? Where are the biggest, challenges or opportunities for you, kind of current state? And then, obviously 9 months from now or so, 7 months from now.
Yeah, it's funny when
3
when
years from now,
yeah,
whenever.
when the news first hit, I mean, gosh, it was like 2.5 years ago. I'll admit there was some panic there. I mean, even right away, I was like, man, that time's gonna go by fast. It sounds like a lifetime, but it's gonna go by fast. And I don't know where we are, what we're gonna do. And it was actually, I'm gonna give credit, your CEO, Jeff Green. I mean, he really took the topic, head on. And we were fortunate enough to have a conversation with him, sort of talk through it. And he talked about how it really is more of an opportunity. It'll make the web a better place, not a worse place. And that's, we've kind of taken a page from that. We even shared Jeff's video like across our, internet. Say, hey, everybody watch this. If you want to understand cookieless, you want to understand why this is such a scary thing, like this guy's really smart. Listen to what he has to say. And that was just another thing that we did that kind of helped. So, look, I'm excited for it because I think that's going to help deliver better consumer experiences at the end of the day when we're going to more identity, based solutions versus cookie solutions where we're, you kind of lose track of, how often you're maybe messaging to someone and all those kinds of things. I also feel that, there's, in terms of a challenge, I think kind of yet to be seen is some of the things around measurement, right? We at Kimberly-Clark, like a lot of CPGs, we do a lot of multi-touch attribution. ROI is a big thing. It's how a lot of our brand teams get their budgets, because if it's got a positive ROI, then it makes it a lot easier to get a budget versus something that's not proven. So, maybe losing some of that is there's a bit of a risk where it's like kind of the thing that you had that helped, define the value of the channel is now a little bit compromised, so the teams have to work through that. But then I can also look at the other side of the coin, which is, while I value ROI myself, it's not the only measure. And I think sometimes even at CPG, we can over rely on it. And I've used this example a lot, and I tell my marketing folks this, all the time, which is, when you're buying a hyper audience, a hyper targeted audience that is a buyer of your product, you're going in with that, they're already a category buyer and that's who you're reaching. And I'm able to put, a low cost banner ad on a, mobile website, for pennies, like that's going to get a really good ROI. And honestly, I'm like, let's be real here. Like if I ran an ad for Smokey the Bear, you'd still get the same ROI. So, again, there's some nice directional things that come out of that. But you also kind of have to, consider that there's, limitations to what that's actually measuring. And so if by some of the challenges of cookieless, it makes us a little bit less reliant on ROI and look at other effectiveness measures, I would also welcome that.
Sounds like a new creative strategy with Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear, right?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about first-party data. Kimberly-Clark has some great experience here. We work with a lot of CPG brands at the trade desk, and oftentimes they struggle with collecting or leveraging first-party data. We often hear, we're selling cereal or we're selling chicken, and customers don't want to have a meaningful relationship with us. How have you guys been successful in really building those meaningful relationships? And how can other brands think about this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an exciting journey over the last couple of years. And first of all, I just want to say, like, I love the enthusiasm that our teams have around the world. We don't get that kind of attitude. Fortunately, everybody's like, they want to find a way to do it. And look, hey, some of our products, it's a little bit more natural, right? If you're talking about pull-ups or good nights, I mean, those are potty training, aids. And look, our position on those things is always like, we don't want your child to be in these things forever. We're kind of an authority on this subject. We want to help you move through it kind of quickly. So it makes sense for us to have things like, tools and guides and content, or we've done partnerships with Disney where, when a kid, uses the big potty for the first time, you can register and get a call back from a Disney character. So Mickey Mouse kind of gives you, congratulations. I'm not going to do the voice. Gives you a call and a congratulations. Yeah, you're welcome. You're going to get a call and a congratulations from Mickey on that, right? And it's like, and all those things, if it's, gated content or these types of opportunities, like those are going to help drive first party data. So we've got some places where it's a natural fit and consumers kind of see it as specific, but kind of to your point, like, well, now you're talking about Kleenex. What's the way in for Kleenex? And we actually have a great example from the UK where they launched a version of Kleenex. It's called Kleenex Allergy Sensitive. And it was, dye-free, scent-free, like extra soft for people who suffer from allergies and have to blow their nose a lot. That's like the best product to have. And they knew that they wanted, with knowing how many allergy sufferers that there are out there, and like, and how great it could be if we could actually get more first party data and be able to use it and pool it with other data sources, how powerful that could be. But we wanted to find a way in. And so the best place to start was actually with search. And we started to sort of deep dive into allergy questions around search. What are people looking for? And where are they able to find good answers and solutions to their problems? And where are they not? And what we learned in the UK was that like pollen counts are actually, there's like not really easy ways to get it. Yeah, they're in weather apps, but it's like it can get kind of complicated. And there was, a lot of noise out there that we learned like through search about people complaining about that. So it actually gave us an opportunity to bring a solution to that. And they launched like a very simple pollen tracker, put in your, like register here, put in your app, put in your zip code, like immediately sort of find out what the pollen counts are in your area and what you need to be concerned about. And it's not an app, it's mobile web based, so anybody can access it. And we've been able to get a ton of first party data doing that. And the program is now starting to scale to a lot of other markets, including the US. So y'all can look for, Kleenex Pollen Pal. I think it hasn't launched yet. It'll be launching really soon here. So it's called Pollen Pal, which is a nice name too. So I mean, that's a good example of how we've kind of gone, outside found a way to make our brand relevant from a first party data collection standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great example. What about cross portfolio? You get somebody in from Goodnights, they have a young child at home, that child's going to be going to school and probably coming home with germs. So would Kleenex ever leverage that type of data, or do you think about kind of that lifetime value of the consumer once you capture them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love that we're actually having this conversation, because like a couple of years ago we weren't, right? So thinking about those types of things, again, I think when we talk about the evolution of data, the evolution of capabilities that we have, I mean, this is just such a prime example of that, where we can make those things real now. It's hard, and it takes, it takes a lot of effort, but we've started to. In fact, we launched, we have these things at Kimberly-Clark called battles, right? And that's when you put, you identify a problem that's like, or an opportunity that's like big enough where you want to put a task force on that thing, and you want to be, very measured and disciplined about how you do it. You want to have executive sign off. Everybody agrees this is something, because it's a big time commitment when you pull a team on and say, hey, we need 10 people. It's going to be 50% of your time for the next 12 weeks, right? That's a big time commitment. And, but when you get executive sign off on it, which is required, and we don't do too many of them, and they're exclusive, which is another aspect of it. It really shows the organization like how important this is. And that's one of the ones that we did, is like, how can we get better at, realizing what we actually called the battle CCVR, which was consumer centric value realization, which was all about that opportunity of how can we use identity solutions and other data strategies, new data partners, to actually be able to reach consumers at different life stages and sort of like move them between brands. Because there's a ton of them. I mean, there's a lot for, we were talking about Goodnights and, pull-ups and potty training. It's like, well, that's a Cottonelle, opportunity, and Cottonelle flushable wipes, right? So that's, there's things around of that nature. I mean, childbirth and bladder leakage, that's another thing that happens to, a lot of people. There's opportunities there. So yes, that's been a big focus of ours, is how we can do that and not have all of our brand teams and all of their data in silos, but do more sharing.
Right. One of the other hottest areas today is retail media, right? It seems like every retailer, big and small, it is, yeah, have launched a retail media network, right? And, when you think about it, they obviously have very deterministic data. It's based on sales. It's based on closed loop measurement. How do you think about that as a complement to some of your audience strategies? Where do you see that kind of fitting in the funnel with Kimberly-Clark?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, it's hot for a reason. It's huge. It's where consumers are moving to, and there's tons of opportunity there. And I think it's, as more and more, retailers have like moved into the retail media space, And you start to see what different people are willing to do, how they're willing to share. All of a sudden, walled gardens that had like really high walls, like start to lower a little bit, and new opportunities come from that. So, yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of media specialists at Kimberly Clark. Rachel's one. You all saw her before. I mean, programmatic. I mean, globally, we spend what, like $600 million, and we're probably passing at least a third of it through programmatic. If not more, when you start to count social, which is kind of the same concept, right? Search.
Just gonna say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But retail is another one, and we actually have a dedicated retail media leader in the U.S. And we've actually had one for a couple of years. We had a switch out about a year ago when our guy who was there left, but we got a backfill, and yeah, it's a hugely important area.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, Kimberly Clark was a part of the Trade Desk Walmart DSP, one of the first partners in there. Anything you can share in terms of success, or how you think about best practices around that?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it was very cool to be part of that. I mean, that was a limited pilot opportunity because it was like Walmart starting to lower their walls a little bit, and it was an exclusive opportunity where not many advertisers got to participate. So it was a privilege for us to be part of it, and a good reflection of our partnership with them and with you, which we're very proud of. Yeah, I mean, performance-wise, it absolutely did well. I think we've got a little bit more to learn from a measurement standpoint. We're doing some follow-ups there. We're going to do sort of a second round with it, but it performed generally well. I would say, as we kind of, as you look ahead, what's going to be important for us is, when those types of opportunities come up, and they're very tempting and alluring, but as a marketer, we still have full funnel communications to take care of. So we have to be mindful that when we look at opportunities like that it's probably more of a, what is this taking the place of in terms of something that we were doing that was similar, but this is better, and not just adding it on and taking it away from another part of the consumer journey that we need to support.
Got it. Makes sense. Another hot topic in the industry is really brands owning their own campaign data, owning their own contracts. Would love to understand how you guys are thinking about this at Kimberly Clark. What are the strategic benefits, and what has to change in your organization for this to be successful? Like, do you have to hire new roles, yeah.
That's why we hired Rachel for one. So, yeah, I mean, it's hugely important to us, and it's hugely exciting. I mean, this is probably, of all the exciting things that we're doing at Kimberly Clark from a media perspective with our center team. I mean, this definitely ranks up there towards the tops for me. And we're starting to look at bringing some of our key ad technology or platform contracts like directly in-house. So Trade Desk is actually one of them. It's been a long and sometimes tough negotiation. We've been working on it for, well, Rachel, like 8 months already. Yeah. And we're not done yet, but we're getting there. Again, it's a reflection of the partnership that we're both kind of willing to go through it, because we know that the way it's going to help both of our companies on the other side is going to be worth it. But yeah, I mean, just like, massive unlocks for us when we're able to have the data on our side. And this is not a knock on our agency partners, right? And the same is true. Rachel was up talking about ad verification, and that's another one that we're bringing in house, right? But like, look, the agency teams are strapped to the max, just trying to get the buys and get things done and out the door. And it's not in their like historical wheelhouse to have the type of analytical power that we might be able to get access to on our side. And I look at this like, and I tell our agency friends, like, don't look at this as a threat, like look at this as a gift. Because if we're able to get more insights out of all of the data, and if we're able, like from ad verification as like as an example, right? If we're able to learn more about, what ads are really working, how things kind of correlate between, hover rates and exposure to equity lifts and those kinds of things, like we're going to pass that on to you so you can execute better. And when we execute better, guess who wins? You do, right? So we all win when that happens. So don't look at us kind of coming in and like bringing some of these contracts in house as like taking anything away from you. The partnership element is still super important, and it's going to help make all of us better. And I think that they've, again, they've started to come around, I think more so on that when you first start to talk about the topic. They're like, well, what do you mean? We've got such great rates and you're going to be, you'll never be able to, recreate what we've been able to do for you. And we're finding that, we can. So that's encouraging.
Last topic here. I know we're coming up on time.
Are we? Okay, wow,
Yeah,
that was
getting close
fast.
to it. I know, right?
Yeah.
So last week were the upfronts. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people in this room were out there. Heard an interesting stat. The upfront started by ABC in 1962. In 1963, cassette tapes were invented. So you think about the evolution of how that industry has changed. Arguably, the upfronts sort of are under the same format as they were since 1962, largely speaking. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's been some evolution, but
Razzle dazzle.
yeah, would love to kind of hear your perspective and POV on what needs to change. Where do you see the upfronts going, and
Yeah.
how is Kimberly-Clark thinking about them?
Yeah. I'm an authority on upfronts. This is like a funny story. So this is the truth. All right. This is like a moment of humility. It was 2000. I went to the CBS upfront. It was actually a simulcast like here in Chicago. And I watched it and I went back to the office. I'm like, oh, so what'd you think of the CBS upfront? Yeah, they had this show called CSI. Like, it's way too grisly. It'll never make it. So, and that's like 22 years and 5,000 episodes later, so I sort of realized that maybe I'm not an authority on upfronts after all, but at least in terms of what's going to be a hit and what's not. But yeah, in terms of change, this is an interesting pivot, by the way, to go here. But I think start with calendar upfronts, right? You mentioned like the history. I mean, I don't know how many people know, but like the reason why upfronts start in the fourth quarter is because the automotive industry, because they wanted to sync the new shows coming out with when the new car models came out, right? Well, like, we don't operate on that calendar. Most companies like us, we operate on a calendar. So in the fourth quarter, which has like the strictest, guidelines in terms of what you can cancel and cut, is always like our most volatile quarter, right? Like we're either like having to cut budgets to bring things in at the end, or there's like money that came in because we've got a surplus at the end of the year, right? So, fourth quarter is when we need the most flexibility, usually not the least. So calendar upfronts, and again, and certain partners have been working towards this, and we've done some deals that way, which is a help. But man, I would love for it to be the standard and the norm. Maybe that's just me. And then I'd say, what needs to continue to happen is just the continued push for flexibility. And we've definitely, again, the way that the trends have gone on linear television, there's no doubt that, if you're going to be successful, you need to have a mix of linear and connected and premium video and streaming and everything, right? So, when we can work with partners who will allow us to sort of freely move our inventory, like between those different buckets, and now like they've all pretty much got all of them, or even kind of count, if we're able to like maybe do some buys through the trade desk, is kind of counting towards our agreement with them because they're still receiving some of it, even if it's not direct. Like those are the kinds of things that we sort of look for in the type of change that I want to see. And I feel like, because, I mean, look, the truth is that, some like the television has eroded and more of our spend is in digital, right? And it's like if we're able to get smarter about how we're able to reach people and reach people more efficiently and more effectively, we don't need to have all of them in the mix. We can be a little bit more selective. So we're going to be selective towards the ones who are more flexible and accommodating to meet our needs. And that's just going to be kind of the way that it is. So, and again, we've had some good reception with that. I mean, we've got some great partners and things that we're doing on the television video front. So I don't want to be like come off as like Mr. Negative about it at all. I mean, I'm very encouraged by the way that things are progressing. I feel like things maybe could have progressed a little faster, a little sooner on some regards, but I'm happy with where we are now.
Yeah. I mean, we strongly believe it's gonna, over the next couple of years, obviously evolve quickly. Things like Netflix, Disney Plus. And I guess a follow-up then is like, when we think about streaming services in the last 12 months, there's been so much change, right? I mean, the launch of Discovery Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, so many of these. So, I mean, even going back to committing 12 months in advance, like, how do you think about that when, there's new services? If Netflix comes up later this year, or, others with ads, like, how do you commit knowing that so much has, shifted and happened, or how do you build that agility into to everything
Yeah.
you do.
That's exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why flexibility is so key. I mean, I hate to say the word, cut necessarily, but I like to say the word optimize. So, if, even if we're kind of coming up on a quarter and we know that, there's options that we can exercise, but there's like maybe, it doesn't mean we have to kind of keep it. Even if we're like planned to spec, I would still say, we'll look at the spec. And if we've got room to move some things around, like let's maybe move them around if it makes it more optimal. We don't have to settle with what we kind of landed on, 8 months ago as being the thing that we're stuck to. If we've got the room to move, let's take a fresh look and see where we might want to move it. And Mindshare has been good about helping us accommodate that.
Great. That's all I have. Any
All right, cool.
questions from the audience? Perfect. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
likewise.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.